JT, our pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
My pleasure to be here.
JT, we were told by Tunch and Wolf to ask you about the tunnel against the Vikings prior to the Super Bowl.
Oh, that was a very interesting. Well, that's going to be in my book called From the Balcony. But anyway, our first Super Bowl, we actually won that Super Bowl before the game, so we knew it was won. We were standing there in the tunnel, after waiting for introductions, and beside us was the Minnesota Vikings. And we were young, and I tell you, they looked like real Vikings. I mean, it had been raining right before the warm-up, and they had in their beers this water, So we're looking over, and they looked like they were 8 feet tall. And it was so quiet in that tunnel, you could hear a cockroach pissing. Excuse my French. but anyway, really, we were standing there petrified, wondering why we shouldn't be here. And one guy, Glenn Edwards, was the last guy we introduced. He was standing in the back of both lines with his arms folded. And we knew Glenn had been very upset for some reason. And we found out during the warm-up, one of his former teammates from college refused to speak to him in the warm-up. So Glenn standing with both arms folded, legs spread apart, and he asked a question that bellowed through the tunnel. And he said, "You know what?" And everyone looked back, even us. We was already scared. Matter of fact, we had 12 men in that tunnel. Initially, fear was the other one, And Glenn said, "You know what?" And we looked back, and he said, "We're gonna kick your blankety, blankety, blankety." And at that point, the ice broke. I mean, it kind of like broke the ice. Joe Green broke rank. He went over chewing gum, hanging out his mouth, looking at the Vikings. We was out of order, really, at this point in time. Dwight White, he started playing the dozen, asking guys, "Do your mama know what's going to happen to you?" Ernie Holmes, Ernie Holmes. That story. He was saying he was going to hurt some people today. Lambert was biting into his gum. He had started to bleed at the mouth. So we knew then the game was over. We had it. I mean,
and that was one of the most dominating defensive performances in Super Bowl history.
Oh yeah, it was. But in the tunnel is when the game was won. We knew before introduction, and Glenn never broke the ice because we was petrified.
Had that not happened, do you think you lose the game?
I don't know, but I knew when we was introduced before introduction, I knew it was over. I mean, just the mindset. It was just we were raw, and it was just for us. It was showtime. It wasn't the game. It was a show. Yeah.
JT Thomas joining us here, Adam Crowley and Dale Lolley on Steelers Nation Radio. You don't strike me as a guy who gets scared, but if one of those Steelers teammates could put some fear in you, is it Mean Joe or anybody else?
Joe, we learned how to be mean. Joe was already mean. I mean, that was a learning process for us, and some of us had to learn. Joe was just naturally mean, and it wasn't a joke. I mean, he would threaten his own teammates. I know Dwight White and I used to talk. Dwight said, "If he come at me, I'm giving me a 2x4 because Green is crazy." The only guy he probably wouldn't threat was Ernie Holmes because we had no idea what Ernie may do. You didn't threat, so Ernie was kind of in the world by himself. No, but Joe was the foundation, and I think that Rooney recognized that, and Joe's attitude is really what permeated that entire defense. And also, I mean, I think there's an old adage says where the snake head goes, the bodies go. So that means that Chuck Knowles must have been just as mean, as ornery as all those other guys there.
We were talking about earlier how this Steelers defense can be better, and we were talking about if the defensive line, if Stephon Tuitt can become like Cam Hayward, and he has the talent to do so. That's what you guys were. You had 4 defensive linemen that killed people, and I'm sure it made your job easier on the back end.
Yeah, if I was a gambler, I would own Pittsburgh because I pick the Super Bowl every year, and it's very simple to pick the Super Bowl. In order to win the Super Bowl, there's a prototype template you must have. And I think Chuck knew this, and we knew this as players. Offensively, you got to have on the outside you need 2 All-Pro caliber wide receivers. You got to have 1 All-Pro quarterback and 1 All-Pro running back. If you don't have that on offense, forget about it. Well, the Steelers got that. Defensively, you need a front four or a front seven to control the line of scrimmage, and you must have two all-pro caliber defensive backs in the secondary. Without that, you don't win it. And so you look at the Steelers for the last few years, you say, well, where we've been lacking at, is in those areas. We haven't been able to control the line of scrimmage, and we don't have those two bona fide all-pro, be it a cornerback or safety in the secondary. And teams that win, that's what they have.
What was it like playing opposite Mel Blount?
Well, I didn't like Mel during the season because people don't realize Mel. It was credit for changing the bump and run rule, but hell, they threw at Mel. They didn't throw at me. See, in my day, they didn't call it shutout. Chuck called it easy day at the office. No, Mel. If you look at a prototype defensive back, Mel is probably the greatest I ever seen. He's my homeboy, both from Georgia. But during the season, I thought he had something going on with the quarterbacks because most teams in the NFL throw to their right 75% of the time, which as a defensive player, that's where I'm on the left. Teams played us, they threw at Mel, and I used to wonder why they're throwing at Mel. That's the reason, but we can go in deep why they threw at Mel. But Mel would deny that reason, but nevertheless. But no, Mel he is the epitome of what I call a defensive back, and I feel that he and the guys that we played, Donnie Shell, oh my God, I mean, should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Donnie Shell made Mel. I tell you this, most cornerbacks flip flop. If Mel Blount and I had a flip flop on the slot, we would have played about 3 years. We tried it one time, and Bud Carson, if Mel come to the right, he couldn't cover his grandmother, and I couldn't cover, a broke leg frog. So who saved us was Donnie Shell. Donnie Shell could play the tight end in the slot, and Bud Carson and Chuck said, "No, you guys, no, you still on the left." I guess it's like switching the size of the beds,
Yeah.
You get on one side, you just screw things up,
Can't even sleep right.
You can't sleep right. But Donnie Shell really could play the slot and both sides. With that kept Mel and I at home, which was like people don't, right now cornerbacks flip flop. I'm not sure how good you are, but we were able to hone our skills on one side of the field.
What do you think of the way the game has progressed with so much substituting and those kind of things? You guys stayed on the field all the time, and like you said, you didn't have necessarily all those 3 and 4 wide receiver sets that you see now, so you see more specialization.
Well, I think about 1966, God changed the mold in terms of he created man. He went to polyester, so you have a different kind of man set. I'm only kidding. No, I think the game has changed because the passing game. They want the pass. With us, passing was a part of the running game a lot. And right now, is you protect the quarterbacks, you protect the wide receivers. It's the pass. And defensive backs' mindset is different. Their mindset is allow everything to happen in front of them and don't get beat deep. And in my day, you don't let them catch the ball.
you can play it a little differently, though. You could get your hands on them.
Well, you can do it now. You think about it. Back then, you only got one bump anyway. But you have to understand, back then we were conditioned to play man-to-man, and zone wasn't. We were afraid to play zone because zone, just the psychology behind it. Zone is that every zone converts to a man. When? Well, Mel and I we weren't smart enough to figure that out, so let us play man.
Well, and you were good enough to do it. I mean,
yeah, it was different. Like we grew up playing man, and matter of fact, when we went into zone defense, 3rd and 20, we couldn't play it. They would beat us. It was just how you conditioned and wired at the time. Yeah. Felt more comfortable in man than in zone, yes.
JT Thomas joining us here on Steelers Nation Radio. Everyone seems to love Chuck now that you're removed from playing for him. Guys like Tunch and Wolf, they loved him. They loved playing for him. What did you think about playing for Chuck Noll?
I think all the guys love Chuck. I think Chuck he made us significant in so many ways. You think about how can any one person get 49 people. You can get 2 people to do the same thing. He was able to get 49 guys with a laser focus, and I think I credit it to Chuck's great ability to communicate. I mean, he could talk to you while he's talking to 6 other guys. That's the kind of guy he was. And also he could question your parenthood by looking at you. But I think his ability to know, he knew everything about you. You would watch him go around and communicate with certain players in the locker room, like Joe Green. He would go up in Joe Green's locker, and Joe was, up in the locker, you see Chuck's back pulled up, and so he's talking to Green that way. Bradshaw, he'd go over, and kind of hug Terry around him, say, "You okay? You okay?" Ernie Holmes and Chuck would take a walk outside around the stadium, and he would nod and wink his eye. So he had different styles of how he communicated.
That's all part of it, though. Knowing how to communicate with each guy, what reached each guy.
Oh yeah, matter of fact, Dwight White and Chuck Knowles would play the dozens, and I didn't know Chuck could play the dozen. Neither did Dwight until Dwight was kind of wild. He played with anybody, and he cracked on Chuck. And Chuck came back with something that we hit the floor, So so Dwight and Chuck was playing the dozen. When you talk about folks' mama, now imagine Chuck, Chuck responding. Wow, but that was his profile. But a great coach, great motivator, no doubt about it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was the best offense that you guys played? I mean, I'm sure every team you played circled you guys on the schedule. Oh, my God, we got to go up against Pittsburgh this week. Was there any team that you looked at and said, okay, it's going to be a rough one here?
Oakland, but Ken Stable, those guys back, they were, I tell you, when we played them, the next week we practiced in shorts. I mean, it was that type of game. But even back in the 70s, our basic conference was tough. Houston Oilers at that time, man for man.
They were a really good team.
Man for man, we were equal. The problem that we were better as a team. If you look at Houston, man for man, they were packed like we were. And even then, back in those days, Cleveland and Cincinnati were good. So getting through our conference was really the big challenge back in those days.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in 1968, so I remember those days. And I remember the Oilers, when Earl Campbell came in. I mean, that was a full-grown man.
Oh, he was two men. he was two men.
And that was he was. I mean, they ran him 400 times.
Yeah, but they were good defensively. They had all pros all over the place, just like we did. And it was just the Central Division was very tough. Even Cleveland back then were tough. Yeah.
Can't wait to read this book. What's the deal there? When's it coming out?
Well, I've been working on it's really completed, except I'm just I got the chapters already laid out. And what it is, it's not a sports book. It's kind of a perspective book. I give you where I got the idea from. There was a nightclub called Heavens back in the 70s. We were doing a promotion one evening, and an altercation broke out on the dance floor. And the cops come in with a cigar, saying what happened. And these two guys had swung a couple of punches, and one of them girlfriend had sprained their ankle. So the cop had a difficult time getting a reason from the dance floor and everybody what happened. So he said, if I don't get an answer, I'm going to shut this dang place down. A young lady on the balcony said, officer, I saw what happened. We looked at the balcony, and it was very quiet again, at this point in time. She said, well, the dance floor was packed, and a drunk came through and hit this guy here and called a chain reaction. He said, well, where's the drunk? Oh, he gone, left 15 minutes ago. and I thought about perspective, and I started looking at my life, the game, and asked you, why did we win, Super Bowls or my life? So when I hit the rewind, I go to the balcony, what I thought I saw didn't happen. In life, in sports, why we won 4 Super Bowls, great coaches, great. Joe Green, Bradshaw, all pros. Those were contributing factors, but when I looked, there were 2 people that if they hadn't came into our lives, we wouldn't have won those games. And so what the balcony does, it gives you a different perspective on what you think really happened. And when I started doing that, it was just amazing some of the things that I missed. And I talked to my players and teammates. I said, well, we forgot about that. We forgot about those people. What people don't realize is when I got here in 73, and I'm not giving too much of it away, 74, we were a segregated ball club. People forget about that. For a Super Bowl, myself and most Southern guys, we less than 10 years off the back of the bus. So you have to say, initially when I got here, the white players went south, the black players went east, or in the town. So you have to say, well, what are the factors that brought us together as one? And there was a few people, or two people that came into our lives that meshed us together and made us a unit. And so it speaks in terms of sports, that aspect. What were those? And no one ever, I mean, players know about it, so, oh yeah, subconsciously they think about it. But most what you hear are the great coaches, the great teams. No, there were some factors that if they hadn't occurred, we wouldn't have been a defined unit that way. Because, like I say, most of us just had come out of the 60s. Out of segregation.
It's things that we can't even understand.
Right, and so imagine that here, that was still there. I mean, I'm the first black football player at Florida State. So you think about it, people forget about, oh, wow, wait a minute, what was the social conditions back then? The interaction, I mean, what type of camaraderie you had at that time. So I think it kind of go back and pick up those things, then it give you a perspective that's kind of more real as to what we want. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We can't wait to check that out.
Yeah.
Congratulations on writing it, and thank you so much for taking the time. Truly a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. Thank you.